sit kind of low up in here in this video right here. Got my hat on. Peace awareness lessons to have row. Peace awareness lessons to have row. The Indian card. Who gets to be native in America? This book, let me show y'all from the beginning. And by the way, I ain't even read this book. I'm just spiritual, so I already know, like, I attracted this book, you know. But it's an obsession been going on. So, cause I gotta do this quick, you know. Y'all know how I do. Y'all know how I do. According to the 2000 U.S. Census, about 4.1 million people checked the Indian box, a term I use to describe the carousel of options that have appeared for Native Americans and Alaska Natives over the years. So in 2000, when asked to select their race from a list of 15 options, including other, 4.1 million people checked the box labeled quote-unquote American Indian or Alaska Native. By 2010, that number had increased to 5.2 million. By 2010, 4.1 million. By 2010, that's another couple million people, 5.2 million people. And in 2020, 9.7. 2010 to 2020, 9.7 million people. That's a lot of people. More than twice the 2000 count, self-identified as Native. Certainly, there have been a few changes in the way we count. In 2000, for example, for the first time in census history, people could check more than one box for a race, which a lot of us did that. You know, I do that too. But, you know, this is not about black people. It's not about white people. It's about truth and respect. So if we assume that people were previously choosing between their racial identities, the 2000 census presented an interesting change in methodology. Indeed, the number of people who identified as Native in the 1990 census was just under 2 million. Whew. Indeed, the number of people who identified as Native in the 1990 census was just under 2 million. Under 2 million. And this going back to the civil rights that black people fought for themselves and for the people in the future, for the babies, for themselves, so on and so forth. This you know, there's also been a significant push to count more of the Native people living on reservations, a population that has the highest census, quote unquote, undercount of any population in the United States as at 5.6%. That undercount means that census results are significantly lower than other reliable population estimates from vital statistics sources like birth and death certificates. Over the last 10 years, increased tribal consolidation has taken place. Over the last 10 years, increased tribal constellations has taken place, as have efforts to, quote, get off the count in Native communities. So this is just the introduction. I ain't finna read the whole introduction. This shit just funny how like everything play out. Now, like, when I just skimmed through the book, I forgot where was I at? Where was I at? Because I just skimmed through it. I had the page. But this was basically saying, like, out of that 9.7 million people who claiming Indian, the rates for somebody to claim a tribe was way lower than that. Way lower than that. There's a difference between just claiming Indian on the paperwork and actually having a tribe you can go back to. And it's a trick behind what people be doing. It's because of reservations and, you know, the law and stuff. So let me get into it. Let me just skim through it. Let me just skim through this. The same year, this is the person who wrote the book. The same year I moved to Iowa City to teach at the University of Iowa, Kevin took a job. Oh, well, it's a story. True story, though. Kevin took a job as dean of the University of Iowa College of Law. We are two of the only native faculty on campus. Kevin is a citizen of the Chickasaw Nation of Oklahoma and find ourselves at a lot of the same gatherings. I asked Kevin about data. So this is about a person, because I ain't read this book, so I'm just giving it to y'all, you know, skimming through it. I'm just skimming through this. But I'm trying to see where I've seen some stuff at. Like, if the president of the Navajo Nation wanted to understand where the tribe fit into but okay, here we go. And the thing about this, I know some truth in this book. I gotta turn it back in, but I'm gonna try to get this book again. Cause this went in, this saying some truth. This not, you know, this not no gimmick book, you know, like most times this is people experience. Like, this is a person experience. So let me just skim through it real quick. Let me just skim through this. Okay, this is where I was reading that too. Ostensability, the male, I don't even know that word. The male population was divided by age and order. Okay, let me go back. Let me go back to the free white persons. In 1790, when the United States undertook its first ever census, only 6 questions appeared: head of household's name and the number of people in each of 5 categories. So this was 1790. Free white males 16 years and older, free white males under 16, free white females, all other free persons, and slaves. The male population was divided by age in order to assess the country's military capabilities to determine how many men could be called up for service if necessary. But largely anyone other than the free white head of household was a simply tally mark to be counted as either one whole person or 3/5 of one whole person. And this come into the 14th Amendment, like it says in here. 3/5 of a human being. This is they talking about the so-called African Americans. So let me look up the word tally mark or the phrase tally mark, because it's funny how, like, they tell us the truth. They tell us the truth, but it's just up to us to be knowing. But like how this shit been going in America, the struggle, the pain, the you know, all the work our ancestors put in, you know. Shout out to Algeria. Peace. Shout out to you. Our ancestors been putting in work, so certain shit went past us, but certain shit didn't go past nobody. Certain people didn't stop claiming they native tribe. They didn't call themselves Black American. Or, I mean, African American. They didn't call themselves that. They probably only start calling themselves that due to statistics. And I'm thinking small. On a big scale, I know damn well the real ones, the OGs, the elders, the chiefs in the community in different states and different cities, all of them ain't claiming, you know, being African American. The ones who probably claiming African American was the ones who like was taught about being from Africa. You know, which ain't nothing wrong with Africa. We not over here beefing with Africa, but we got people, we got Africans in the UK and all over. They are dip from they country from Africa, dip from they land from Africa, because there's multiple countries in Africa, and be disrespecting us over here and about us, the Black Americans. Like, this shit goes so deep, and this shit, we've been so quiet, we've been so helpful, different generations, and people be thinking like we losing our mind now because we not letting nobody walk over us and shit. You know what I'm saying? Ain't nothing wrong with speaking up for yourself and walking with your head up, with your shoulders bolted. You know what I'm saying? Only when somebody's just trying to bully you and tell you about you and tell you that you don't know where you come from and try to simply belittle you and belittle your race, and not even your race, belittle the history of your people on the land where your people put in work. Like, that shit is over with. So let me see. Since 2010, when I began noticing the explosion in the number of people self-identifying as Native, I became particularly interested in the U.S. Census and its patterns and trends. It wasn't until I really began to dig into the logistics of the census, though, that I developed a slightly different fascination with how the process of counting can itself illuminate the priorities of a society, how it thinks of the people, of their value. A perusal, I don't know that word, of the instructions given to census enumerators over time is telling. From 1790 to 1840, the rules of census counting were spared. In just 2 single-spaced pages from Act of the First Congress, Chapter 2, Section 1, U.S. Marshals and their assistants are instructed to count the inhabitants of their jurisdictions. U.S. Marshals, and now look, U.S. Marshals, the sheriff are the real police. The police is like security. But first, they started off as really shooting and killing the natives on the land that wasn't conforming. This where the police come in to come from. But you know, I'm just giving y'all a brief. Let me show you again. In just 2 single-space pages from Act of the First Congress, Chapter 2, Section 1, U.S. Marshals. The U.S. Marshals are instructed to count the inhabitants of their jurisdictions. In that act, marshals are given the oath that they are to take, the categories they are to record, and the time frame in which they are to conduct their work. Most of the section is actually a description of salary for employees and the ramifications of inaccurate or untimely counts. The penalties were severe. In 1790, an enumerator makes false claims, whether knowingly or not, or returning their records late, will have been subjected to a fine of $200, over $6,600 in 2023. Damn, I ain't even know shit about that. If a person gave false information to a census taker, or refused to give information altogether, they would be sued for $20, half of which would go back to the census taker himself. I should pause here to say that U.S. Marshals were not specially trained to do census enumeration. In fact, the primary duty of that law enforcement body was and continue to be supporting the work of federal courts. Interesting. So, let's check this out. I never expected my research into Native American identity and enrollment to take me to the 13th century Mughal Empire, but that's exactly where I end up. Historians cannot say with complete certainty when or where the practice of counting people began. Some point to the Babylonian Empire, which in 3800 BCE, before Caucasians, that's how I look at that, took the first known census, tallying livestock, butter, honey, milk, wool, and vegetables. So I'm gonna take it the word tallying because I just seen that word twice now. I guess that's probably putting a price on something. Like it say tallying livestock, butter, honey, milk. Yeah, because all that is resources. So that shit funny. Ostensibly to account, I don't know that word, I gotta look that word up, for how much food stocks they need to maintain. Unfortunately, none of these foods have survived. The oldest census data on people comes from the 2 CE from China's Han Dynasty, which recorded 57.7 million people living in 12.4 million households. That count was conducted primarily for tax purposes. So were census conducted by the Roman Empire. And one edict from 104 CE by the prefect responsible for Egypt. All persons were to, quote unquote, return to their own herds so that a census could take place. So this is giving a brief history about different this is giving a brief history about different stuff from like different cities or different countries. The Mughal Empire of China. Yeah, this is crazy right here. It's crazy how like this shit going all the way back. And this is a person, shout out to Carrie, Lori, Skute Pales. Yeah, they sound like they from Russia or somewhere. Or Ireland. One of them. Ooh. The fixation on purity in the U.S. Census on the specific fraction of African or native blood divided by the more dominant, socially desirable white blood reminds me of something that would happen a few decades later. According to scholar Robert Miller, a citizen of the Eastern Shawnee tribe in the 1920s and 30s, while developing Germany's policies and laws concerning Jews, Adolf Hitler and Nazi officials studied U.S. law involving Native Americans. Damn. So these people were studying Native Americans. Let me read that again. Hitler, well, I ain't gonna read it again. In a 1928 speech, Hitler seemed inspired to reflect that the United States had gunned down the millions of Redskins to a few 100,000 and now keep the modest remnant under observation in a cage. Damn. And this is it say in a 1928 speech, Hitler seemed inspired to reflect that the United States had, quote unquote, gunned down the millions of Redskins to a few 100,000, and now keep the modest remnant under observation in a cage. And now keep the modest remnant under observation in a cage. Bro, this is Adolf Hitler. And Redskins wasn't talking about, Redskin is talking about people like me. I got red skin. Man, a motherfucker be like, you black. Yeah, I'm black according to the census that we got now. But when we observing each other, we observe red-skinned people. Make it make sense. The process of gunning down millions of Jews and keeping the modest remnant under observation in the cage began with a census. In order to achieve their goal, the ethnic cleansing, I gotta be on my Dr. Umar Johnson shit. The ethnic cleansing of the Jewish people, Hitler's regime needed first to determine who was Jewish and where they lived. Unfortunately, a traditional census would have taken far too long. Tabulating the millions of responses by hand was a years-long process. Instead, Nazi leaders decided to bank on burgeoning technology to help them count. Man, I gotta get this book back again. I just wanted to show y'all, man, like how like it's truth inside of these books. You know, like in these books it's written. Oh, this Carrie is a lady. Look, I'm glad I opened the page up. She is a lady. Is an enrolled member of the Lumbee tribe of North Carolina. She spent 7 years working in the Obama administration on issues of homelessness and Native policy. She holds an MFA in creative writing. So, of course, you know, she an enrolled member of the Lumbee tribe of North Carolina. In the United States, blackness has long been governed by the ideal of one drop. In the United States, blackness has been, I was telling my girl about this shit. I was telling my woman about this shit. See, this one drop rule, cause certain black people, I guess, ain't heard about this one drop rule, where if you got one drop of black blood, you are black. In the United States, blackness has been long governed by the ideal of one drop, that even a single drop of black blood made a person black and thus stripped them of any privilege or freedoms granted to white people. It was this way in the Jim Crow South, where interracial marriages were prohibited. The idea being that black people should be separated from white people, and that any amount of black blood was sufficient for that cause. White people, quote, white people weren't as much after native bodies as land. Yeah, I had to check this out. You know what I'm saying? And up to this point, that we see how like America, and not just in America, it's people from coming from different lands, different people of ethnicities and nationalities seen to talk about us the most. And we like, damn, Every time it's funny, every time we uphold ourselves to be like, oh yeah, I'm superior. That don't mean I'm superior to over your life. I'm superior over the bullshit that they try to make me inferior, like I can't do shit. And these people get mad at us now because we not taking the bullshit, or we hearing the shit. We go throw that shit out. We go hear the shit, take in some shit, put that shit in the pot, cook it up. The rest of that shit, you can take that shit. We straight. We straight. And this is how we continue to grow. And like a lot of people, these people don't fuck with us for real. They don't fuck with us. They talk shit. Now we talk shit, but it's a difference between trying to belittle somebody and talk shit. Every time we go to these gas stations, these corner stores, these nail salons, you know what I'm saying? It's either people are the jealous that they are not us, or it could be both. They are jealous that they not you, or a few things. They jealous because they not you. They know who you are more than you know who you are, or they know that your species is a dominant species. Although we are all not the same, we have cousins and this and that. We are the same, but we still cousins. We still have our own ways and shit. Meaning, like, I'm not the same as somebody. Even let's say if you had some Africans that was from Africa 500 years ago, 500 years ago, and they came to America and made a family and made different generations of families. You are a Black American. You are purely bred in America. You continue to your generation, and you came from Africa this period amount of time in the 1400s. Rather, if it was to forced, or you came over here to help, or you simply came over here because the Africans was already coming over here. People was coming from different lands. Different melanated, carbonated people, so-called Black people, coming over from their land to visit another land, and during this period of time in the 1400s, if you didn't go back home, I don't know. I'm just trying to make this shit make sense, because it's just funny how like everybody saying we come from Africa. Well, who was over here in America? It wasn't just one group of people, or it wasn't just one light-skinned people. That shit don't make sense. And certain people want it to make so much sense because it's just a way to belittle us. But it's all good though. And trust and believe, like if somebody come from Africa, right? Meaning that they not in their homeland, they not bred it from their homeland, and they come up with the civil rights movement. They come up with all these movements. These so-called Africans, now they African Americans. They not in their homeland, but they done built the country. And the generations after them coming, got hit with the crack epidemic, got hit with all these epidemics, the man got pushed out the black woman's faith, while she could sleep with the so-called European white man, or have to sneak in a brother if she ain't, you know what I'm saying, if she straight natural still, because that's what that was about too, to try to ethnic cleanse. They done did all this shit, and guess what? We still here. They done put now, and it's been a spiritual war, aka a war on the food. poison in the water, the food supply, poison in the water. And people don't think to be like, what is so special about water? Why do you poison the people water? And it don't boil down because all they devils. It's deeper than it's deep. It's like, who the fuck is giving these people this power? Or better yet, is it one race? Is it multiple races inside of this group to dismantle nations' supply? Whether that's in America, Africa, because trust and believe. Look how us we've been beating up on each other. We've been beating up on each other. You know what I'm saying? Like Africans beating up on Americans, Americans coming back beating ass. But the whole time this shit was it wasn't a distraction. I'm not gonna say it's a distraction, but it's just funny enough how like on Christmas, Nigeria get bombed, and then the fighter from the UK, and it's funny, the fighter from the UK, our brother, that's from the UK. He ain't American brother, he UK brother, but he's still melanated. And wins a fight. They say he went off script. End up damn near dying, getting murdered in Nigeria. Y'all gotta make this shit make sense, man. Like what's going on? I mean, sometimes we or ask a question at least. Like, damn, the fuck is going on? What the fuck is going on? But I'm up out of here though, y'all. I'll see y'all. Peace.